I'm Randalls.
And I'm Jocelyn.
And this week it was WWDC. So, some of the announcements. If we kick off with the hardware, we did see the M2 Ultra debut, but unlike my prediction last week, we didn't technically see it debut on the Mac Pro.
No.
We saw it debut on the Mac Studio.
Which they're really hammering home as kind of this Mac Pro-like kind of model. But having it debut on there, they're pushing the Pro, I think, towards those people who want to put PCI stuff in and want to actually do stuff. And I was wrong in the sense that you can actually make modifications to the Pro now.
Which, yeah, they've got an actual PCIe expansion capability in there, which is really good. But it's just ridiculous amounts of power.
Yes.
Like, I know that they aim for pro users, but who needs to stream 22 streams of 8K video at once, other than CCTV operators?
I mean, you could argue film studios and various places like that, but even then, that amount of raw footage at that resolution in this day and age is still ridiculous. But maybe they're aiming it for, 10, 15 years down the line when they make Avatar 3.
Maybe. We didn't see Mac Pro go back to the old trash can design. We're going to have to deal with the cheese grater design instead.
Yep, but now it's also available in a tower rack for like server farms, which is sort of on its side, which I actually quite like the look of somehow. I don't know why. It's exactly the same as the cheese grater one, but it's sideways.
So have they sold you?
Not quite. I don't quite need a server farm of eight simultaneous 8K feeds at once.
Well, maybe when our TechBrits revenue starts coming in, maybe that'll be it. So we also saw the 15-inch MacBook Air, which we were expecting.
Yes.
I'm still not too interested in it until they change that damn notch design, because it just seems so old now. Now that we've switched to the dynamic island on the iPhones, having that big rectangular cut out in the middle just doesn't.
It doesn't. No, right. And the way they showed it off, it was literally like, we've taken the 13-inch and we made it bigger. It's like, great.
Good job. Look, I guess that's what some people wanted.
That's what you want. Okay, fine.
So if we move on to the software side of things, we obviously saw iOS 17.
Yes.
What a shocker that was. So one of the big new things is the ability to have contact photos. Like, that's a brand new thing.
Not contact photos. I think they call it contact posters, which I think is like
name change.
Yeah,
that revolutionizes everything. It's
Apple's way. But no, I think the idea is it's a bit like in iMessage when you can set your own profile on your end, and then when you're texting people, they can go, "Ooh, this person's got their own profile." I think the idea is it's that, but for phone calls. So if I set mine up and then I phone you, instead of displaying what a photo that you set for me and that thing, I've got my own sort of poster to be like, I'm phoning, which is fine, dandy, but it's nothing crazy revolutionary.
Yeah. I mean, next time you leave your phone unattended, I am looking forward to changing my photo to my butt cheek.
I mean, that's the thing. I think you can do that on your phone, and you don't have to do it on mine.
Oh, so well,
everyone you phone
gets a nice image of my butt. Brilliant. So another update we saw was to FaceTime, where you can now leave video messages and get live transcriptions.
Yeah, so the live transcription thing is interesting because that's something that Google have had for a while now. A phone call comes in and you can look at it and go, oh, that's a spam call, I'm not going to answer that. But they made a big deal out of it, and it looks quite nice, as it always does with iPhone, but it is something that we've had for a while on the Android side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be using it to leave video messages of my butt, but
of course,
that's going to be a running theme, I think. But the transcriptions is also interesting because I also look forward to calling people from unknown numbers and just saying stuff like, oh, it's Elon Musk. I wanted to talk about that sponsorship opportunity.
People will just reject the call.
Well, yeah. I've tried to go for a figure where they would be like, oh crap, I better answer that.
Yeah, no, people will just reject the call.
Yeah,
so the next thing...
They're all like, these celebrities, they're just like us, really. They get rejected calls too.
Yeah. And the next thing they showed off is stickers. So one of the things that I think they brought out with the pull-out characters, from photos, where you can use them as stickers on things like iMessage and things like that. They're now having a little sticker sort of box where you can store them all, and you can add effects to them, so make them shiny stickers or live stickers. And one of the big things they said is you can now do this across iOS. I actually am really looking forward to this. I use stickers a lot in iMessages.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to creating pictures of my body, fully clothed body.
Yeah, of course. So that was just a really neat way of just kind of adding a bit more play into iMessage and stuff to try and get more people to use it while they're not releasing RCS.
And another thing we saw was some updates to AirDrop. So now you can share your number directly to people that clearly don't want your number, in my experience, by just tapping on their phone.
I did say while I was watching the keynote and they announced this, I don't make enough friends anymore. I've made my friends now. I don't need to share my contact with more people. But this is obviously for people who are out there, sharing contacts and things like conferences.
Still making friends.
Yeah, still making friends and contacts.
So if I was still on the dating scene, I would just walk along and just tap everyone's iPhone and just see what responses
there is a sense of you have to accept it. As an AirDrop, you have to accept. Yeah,
it's not like when they release those Bluetooth beacons and you just walk down the street and get all these messages from local brands. Can you remember that?
That was a long time ago.
Oh, that was a nightmare.
They also announced the standby mode that you brought up last week in the predictions episode.
Yes.
So you can now put your phone horizontally when it's on charge at night, and it kind of becomes a little clock, a little standby clock. I actually really like the way they showed this off and the way that they integrated the widgets, as we've mentioned. I think it's an interesting way of, and I want this to come to iPad, and realistically this will come next year, as they always tend to release a feature for iOS and then hold it back for iPad for some unknown reason, and then release it later, and we'll get onto that later. But it's a really nice way of sort of showing this off.
I was a little bit concerned when this first started that it was going to be, like you brought up in that predictions episode, that it was going to be just a clock, because they showed it as just a clock and you could customize it and all that sort of thing. But I was like, oh God, is there going to be anything else to this? And then they brought into the widgets, and I was like,
widgets and live
it is actually going to be a smart display
like
here. You can control all your smart home devices, and it's all good.
And it doesn't cost $1,800 like the Pixel, the Pixel Fold does. And you don't have to buy a brand new product like the Pixel tablet. This is already on your phone if you have iOS 17.
Yeah. Now, the other big improvement we saw, and on-device AI, as we said in the predictions episode, was a very big thing this year, was a huge improvement to autocorrect. I was going to make a duck and joke here, but Craig already did it. So.
Yes, he did. I think this is Apple's way of kind of showing off AI without coming out and going AI. They subtly threw in bits and pieces of AI throughout the entire sort of keynote, and I think this was probably one of the biggest text-based bits with speech and the keyboard itself. And I think it's definitely the Apple way of doing things, is to be more subtle about how they implement these sorts of bits and pieces.
And one thing we didn't see, which we were expecting, was a redesigned control center. Yes. Weirdly, we saw this in Apple TV, but that was it. Yeah,
I'm not sure why. And maybe this is the beginning of Apple TV gets it first and then iOS and iPadOS get it later. But yeah, it was odd, because I think Control Center really does need an upgrade at this point.
So moving on to the iPad side of things, we did finally see Health being released on the iPad, which again feels like a sort of overdue thing. They've made some improvements. One of the big things was a new feature which can start the diagnosis for things like anxiety and depression, which is a really, really good thing.
Yeah, it's not terrifying, but it's one of those things where it's like, do I want this to be built into my phone? Yes, I get it. The phone is quite often the reason people do experience anxiety and depression and things like that. And it's Apple's way of kind of going, hey, here's a tool to help with this. But I do wonder whether it's Apple kind of, obviously on-device AI and everything like that, it's all on-device, it's all private, but I do wonder, so why is Apple getting involved in this? Why is Apple so keen to get these things in your hands in this way?
Yeah, I mean, speaking from experience, part of the big thing we're trying to get diagnosis is trying to separate what is just a couple of bad days here and there and what actually is a chemical imbalance and an actual problem. And I feel like this feature built into your phone, so you can actually be like, oh, okay, I'm actually having bad days quite a bit more often than I should, is a good way to kind of get that conversation started.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope it gets recognised by sort of medical boards across the world before it becomes one of these things. It's like, oh, my iPhone said this, give me medication. It's like, no, we need to have this conversation more broadly, I think.
Definitely. We did see interactive widgets come to iPad as well.
Yes.
And this could be essentially a brand new way of interacting with your iPad, because if you don't even really need to open up a lot of apps anymore. You can just do it all from the
So this was really interesting because they announced it with the iPad, and it was very exciting. And I genuinely went, yes, finally, interactive widgets. And then I realized they didn't announce it with the iPhone. And then I went online and everyone was like, why is this not coming to the iPhone? What's going on? It is coming to the iPhone. They just, for some reason, didn't announce it as part of the iPhone bit. They announced it as part of the iPad bit, but maybe they see it as more of a home sort of device with the iPad, but it is coming to the iPhone, and I think that's important to
confirm. TechBrits exclusive.
Yes. Straight from the Apple website.
Widgets is, as we said, a huge theme this year, and of course we've seen it pushed very front and center to WatchOS. You still have your watch face, which is nice. You can have whatever customization you want. They've obviously enhanced that a little bit. But if you spin the digital crown now, it kind of brings up all of the stuff that was part of the Siri watch face before.
Yeah, I really like the implementation of this. I think it's a very clean implementation. It's not changing WatchOS too much. It's 10 years of WatchOS, so it was overdue sort of a bump. But I really like this, and I'm actually really looking forward to playing with this.
Yeah. And macOS Sonoma was announced, the wine country.
Yep, which the crack marketing team like a little bit too much.
Yep, definitely. As Craig quite happily, I think it was Craig. Was it Craig?
Yeah,
it was Craig.
It's always Craig.
It was always Craig. But widgets again.
Yeah.
This might as well have been called Widgets WWDC, really.
That's one of the W's.
Exactly. It's Worldwide Widgets Developer Conference. There we go. Is coming front and center to Mac.
Yes.
So it's no longer going to be hidden away in that sidebar where you never actually looked at them.
You can now plaster all over your desktop, including the ones on your phone.
Windows Vista style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's something that no one wanted, and now Apple's done it. Everyone wants it. Exactly.
But we also saw enhancement to CarPlay as well, where other people can hijack your stereo, which, living in a household and having many friends who are very into their musicals, I am absolutely dreading.
So my car doesn't have CarPlay, so I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, this is something that would actually be really useful for me. But I think, and this is purely by what I've been reading, and I don't know this for certain, but this works even if you don't have actual CarPlay in your car. This will work just generally with playlists, so home playlists and sort of home pods and things. I think you'll now be able to join into playlists sort of in this sort of more rich way, which I absolutely love.
And keeping on with the audio, keeping on with the audio theme, we had enhancement to AirPods with adaptive audio, and I feel like I would just leave this mode on all the time because as long as it works as it did in that trailer, because of this is a really, really great idea. So the idea is that when people are speaking to you, it will sort of dip your music so you can actually hear them, and other times it will block out all the sort of drills and all of that going on.
I really like the look of this. I think it's one of those features I didn't realize I wanted, and now I'm wondering why it wasn't there already. Like it absolutely is one of those things.
I'm just hoping that they enhance it one step further so you can block out specific people. that would be very, very useful. And one more thing, the Apple Vision
Pro.
I must have missed the amateur version. Maybe that was Microsoft HoloLens.
Well, or Google Glass.
Maybe.
Or just the Quest.
Combination. Quest. Yeah, this isn't an exclusive that we've got here.
Yeah.
I wish.
So Vision Pro is Apple's next big thing. And I want to get off the bat and say, this is a VR headset. This is not an AR headset. This is a VR headset with very good pass-through.
Yeah.
Like when they first showed it off, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like see-through. It's proper AR, and then actually they're feeding virtual into it as well. No, this is a virtual reality headset with very clean pass-through, and I want to make that I want to get that off the bat.
Clear.
Yeah, because people are calling it the AR headset, and I think there's an important distinction to be made because things like Google Glass, HoloLens, those were AR headsets.
Apple is supposed to be making actual AR glasses that
which
are
I
supposed
think
to be a bit cheaper as well. We'll get onto the price probably in a sec. But I think this is the first time that I've ever seen Tim Cook visibly nervous. I think he could really sort of feel that this is
is his this is his moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a pivotal moment for Apple that this is a big product that has to go right for them. And it's going to be interesting because I don't think that they are expecting to sell many.
No.
But with the price of it, they can probably still call it a success, even with quite little sales.
Yeah, so it's $3,499, which when that popped up on screen, I went, wow. And it's only available in the US early next year. So that there's still time for them to change it, not massively, but they might make some adjustments to it. I don't think there's many adjustments to be made to it, unless you're completely reinventing the product.
This is it. Apparently, it was a product that was about a decade in the making, and it looks it.
It does.
Again, we're seeing very kind of polished footage and demos of it at the moment. But
it looks amazing, but I don't think this is the next iPhone as they are trying to push it forward as.
At least not quite yet. I mean, I'm always hesitant to go for any first generation product anyway.
Yeah.
But I think a couple of years down the line, we might see it get a little bit cheaper as sort of components get a bit cheaper.
A bit smaller, because at the moment, if you compare this to something like Google Glass, it looks ridiculous. With the virtual eyes, which I'm not going to lie to you, was very dystopian.
Yeah, I found that super creepy as well. I'm glad it's not just me. The eyes were clearly sort of magnified as well.
Yeah.
When I first saw someone with it, I was like, is that just their eyes? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, is that see-through? It's like, no, that's all.
It's like, no, it is actually just being magnified, fortunately.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit bug-like.
Yeah, and when they announced that you could do FaceTime calls, it's like, great. What do I look like? Do I look like a bug man with this headset on? It's like, no, we're just going to completely make you a virtual person. It's like, well, hang on. I want to have a FaceTime call. The whole communicating with people bit was very dystopian to me. And I think it really hammered it home when it showed those clips of the dad like taking videos of his kids or like watching videos of his kids. I genuinely thought, it's like, no, his kids have left. Like, his wife and kids are gone, and this is what he's looking at. Like, that's how it felt to me, especially how empty that house looked.
I really loved how you could pull in other devices. And again, we're going to have to see how seamlessly it's actually worked. But to be able to just look at your MacBook on the side,
that was cool.
And then pull a screen up of that MacBook is mind-blowing stuff.
It was really cool, but again, it's a very niche thing. Like, you bought a Mac. Use the Mac. Is doing it virtually going to be much better? Yeah, really.
Yeah, I can definitely see the benefits for things like watching movies and that, but this is stuff that much cheaper VR headsets.
Yeah, this was $499. No, it wasn't. This was $399. It went down in price. Like this,
and it's just come back down to that price again.
But. This is just a really expensive headset, and it could be the next thing, but it's really going to be a hard sell.
I mean, this is absolutely mind-blowing technology. And when I was initially writing notes for this section, I sort of couldn't put into words just how impressive this is and how pivotal this is. But it's going to be used for porn.
If Apple let it.
If Apple let it.
And that would be the thing that sets it off. That would be the thing that's like, no, this is
it always is. Yeah. It's basically won every format war in the past. So that's all Apple needs to allow, basically.
Yeah. Well, what I've also found is I've heard it's very heavy. Like, considering how light it looks, it's actually still very heavy. So heavy, in fact, that they've had to take the battery out.
Because, So as we said that they have a magnetic battery, which you can slip in your pocket or put on a belt, which is a very clever, nifty way of doing it. But to hear that it's still sort of quite weighty is concerning, because this is what a lot of Apple designers wanted, to push the headset back until it can be made a little bit smaller and a bit lighter.
Yeah, and hopefully a bit cheaper.
And a bit cheaper, yeah. So, anyway.
So what do you think about all the things that were announced at WWDC? There's a lot to unpack, and we'd love to hear from it. So please leave a comment below. We reply to every comment. So please put your thoughts on anything they announced.
Well, I do. You need to do it more.
Fair. And if you have any other thoughts, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll be releasing more videos every week.